Have you ever felt like you've met someone before, even though you know you haven't? A feeling of déjà vu so strong it feels like a memory from another life. For Evan, this feeling wasn't just a fleeting sensation. It was his reality. Every morning, he would wake up not just in a different bed, but in a different world. A parallel universe, almost identical to his own, but with one crucial, heartbreaking difference. In every single one of these worlds, he met her Luna. The first time, it was a blur. A flash of a warm smile, gentle eyes, and a name that felt like home. Then, another world, and another. A rapid montage of encounters began to fill his memory. Luna, laughing as a street performer juggled fire. Luna, lost in thought, tracing patterns on a steamy cafe window. Luna, her hair catching the golden light of sunset on a crowded street. Always her, yet never the same. And she never, ever remembered him. He was a stranger to her, every single time. One rainy Tuesday, Evan woke up to the smell of fresh coffee and the soft murmur of conversations. He was in a cozy cafe, the kind with worn wooden tables and old books lining the shelves. The rain outside painted streaks down the large glass windows. And there she was, Luna. She was reaching for a sugar packet, her hand brushing against a tower of napkins. He knew what was coming. He moved to grab his own coffee, and just as she turned, they collided. Hot coffee splashed across his shirt. "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry," she gasped, her eyes wide with concern. Evan just looked at her, a sad smile playing on his lips. "It's okay," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "It happens." He had lived this scene 3 times before. This time, he didn't just want to clean up the mess, he wanted to make this moment stick, to make it the asterisk moment. He wanted her to see him, truly see him, for the first time again. The next morning, the jarring screech of a bus pulling to a stop woke him. He was on public transport, the city lights blurring past the window. The seat next to him was empty. A moment later, she got on Luna. She scanned the crowded bus, her eyes landing on the empty space beside him. She offered a small, hesitant smile. "Is this seat taken?" she asked. He shook his head, his heart pounding a familiar, frantic rhythm. She sat down, her bag resting between them. They rode in silence for a few blocks, the air thick with unspoken words. He could feel her occasional glances. He turned to her just as she was looking away, a blush creeping up her cheeks. "I like your pin," he said, pointing to a small, silver crescent moon on her jacket. She touched it, her smile genuine and bright. "Thanks." It was a gift. They talked about small things, the weather, the weirdest thing they'd seen that day. When her stop came, she stood up. "It was nice meeting you," she said. "You too, Luna," he replied without thinking. Her eyes widened slightly in surprise. "How did you know my name?" He froze. I must have heard you say it," he stammered. She gave him a curious look, then smiled and waved as she stepped off the bus, disappearing into the crowd. Another near miss, another universe, another memory only he would keep. He woke up to the sound of rain tapping against an umbrella. His own clothes were soaked. He was standing under the awning of a closed shop as a downpour drenched the city streets. He had been caught without cover. Then a splash of color appeared in the gray landscape, a bright yellow umbrella. It stopped beside him, and the person holding it tilted it to cover him too. It was Luna. "Looks like you're having a worse night than me," she said, her voice like a melody over the drummy rain. He was speechless, just staring at her, the neon lights of the city reflecting in her eyes. "Here," she said, pushing the umbrella into his hand. "You need it more than I do. I don't live far." Before he could protest, she pulled her hood over her head and dashed out into the rain, turning back once to give him a brilliant smile before vanishing around the corner. He stood there, holding her umbrella, the warmth of her kindness a stark contrast to the cold, white night. He was falling in love with a ghost, a beautiful stranger he was destined to meet but never hold on to. The scent of old paper and ink filled his senses. He was in a quiet bookstore, the kind with towering shelves that felt like a labyrinth. He was browsing a section on astronomy when he heard a soft thud. A few feet away, a girl had dropped a pile of books. As she knelt to pick them up, a leather-bound sketchbook slid out from her tote bag, falling open on the floor. He walked over to help. "Let me get that for you," he said, reaching for the sketchbook. And of course, it was her Luna. As he picked it up, his eyes fell upon the open page. It was a charcoal drawing of a man standing on a rooftop, looking up at a sky full of stars. The man looked familiar. He looked like him. He handed it back to her, their fingers brushing for a fleeting second. "You're a really talented artist," he said, his voice thick with emotion. She blushed, quickly closing the book. "Thank you," she whispered, avoiding his gaze. "It's just a hobby." He wanted to ask her about the drawing, about the man who looked so much like him. But he knew he couldn't. It wasn't his place. Not in this universe. Then came the universe that felt different. He woke up to a gentle breeze on a rooftop. The city spread out below like a carpet of glittering jewels. The stars were out, clear and bright. He wasn't alone. She was there, leaning against the railing, her face turned up to the night sky. Luna. This time, she saw him first. "You couldn't sleep either?" she asked softly, not startled, as if she were expecting him. He walked over and stood beside her. "Something like that," he replied. They didn't speak for a long time, just sharing the silence, the city, the stars. "Sometimes," she began, her voice a quiet confession, "I feel like I'm living the same day over and over. I have these dreams of meeting someone in a café, on a bus, in the rain. It's always the same person, but I can never see his face clearly." Evan's breath caught in his throat. He looked at her, her profile illuminated by the faint glow of the city. This was it. This was his chance. "Luna," he said, his voice trembling. "What if I told you those aren't dreams?" He told her everything. About waking up in different worlds, the endless loop of first meetings, the ache of loving someone who never knew him. He expected disbelief, maybe even fear. But she just listened, her gaze never leaving his, her expression shifting from curiosity to a dawning, heartbreaking understanding. As he spoke, the world around them began to tremble. The distant city lights flickered and warped. A strange wind swirled around them, whipping papers and leaves into a miniature vortex. The universe was becoming unstable, collapsing under the weight of his confession. The fabric of this reality was tearing apart. Luna looked scared, but she didn't pull away. "So, in every world," she started, her voice shaking, "you find me?" He nodded, tears welling in his eyes. Every single time, he choked out. The flickering intensified, the rooftop beneath their feet seeming to dissolve into shimmering light. He reached out and pulled her close, holding her tight as their world disintegrated. "I will always find you," he whispered into her hair, a promise against the end of everything. Then, silence. The smell of his own pillow. The familiar sight of his own bedroom ceiling. He was back, really back. The grief hit him like a physical blow. It was over. All those moments, all those Lunas, were gone. He had lost her, not just once, but 1,000 times over. He spent the day in a daze. The city outside his window feeling dull and colorless without the possibility of her in it. Defeated, he went for a walk, ending up at a small park he'd never been to before. He sat on a bench, watching the world go by, feeling utterly alone. And then he saw her, across the park, sketching in a notebook. It was her, the real her. His heart stopped. He braced himself for the familiar sting of being a stranger. She looked up, as if feeling his gaze, and her eyes met his. He expected confusion, a polite, questioning look, but that's not what he got. A flicker of recognition crossed her face, a hint of a memory, deep and distant. And then, slowly, a warm, gentle smile spread across her lips, a smile that said, "Oh, there you are. I've been looking for you."